Kamala Harris, eugenics, Bill Clinton.
Stop it.
Biomedical experimentation. All connected.
I don't want to be here today. I don't want to be here today.
None of that.
And then I don't want any of that.
All right.
I just want to drink my beer and sing my
It's Beer
songs.
and Songs Wednesday.
It is.
Which means thank you for joining us.
Where's the song?
He
right
started out there.
There we go. At least it's good. At least while we're getting
thank
going.
you. I was going to do it with my
It's just
ring.
right under the table. I got a magnet for
Okay.
it.
Oh, look at that.
That's how we do it. Psalm 100.
Amen.
This is
Cheers to the king. Cheers to the king.
This is the Brother Down version.
Cheers.
It's a great version. Brother Down. You can find them on Spotify,
Yes, you can.
iTunes, and all the good places.
All the places.
Yeah.
All right. But we'll save that for later.
So Kamala Harris was on. Welcome to Cross Politics. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox on the Waterboy. Kamala Harris was on Meet the Press on Sunday night, and it still blows my mind when they talk like this about abortion.
We have some polling that shows confidence in the Supreme Court is at its lowest level that we've measured in over 20 years. How much confidence do you have in the Supreme Court?
I think this is an activist court.
Oh.
What does that mean?
It didn't rule the way I wanted it to rule.
That we had an established right for almost half a century, which is the right of women to make decisions about their own body as an extension of what we have decided to be the privacy rights to which all people are entitled. And this court took that constitutional right away. And we are suffering as a nation because of it. That causes me great concern.
We are suffering.
Suffering.
Did you know that?
Oh,
man.
So first of all, you remember there used to be some sort of kind of decorum or some kind of deference and respect between the different branches.
Yeah.
Judicial branch, the executive branch, the legislative branch. That is, the way they talk about the Supreme Court right now, it's an activist court. It's a, kind of thing. It seems like we've just kind of lost in this statesman respect for each branch.
But notice too, though, it's okay it's not okay to talk about the election.
Yeah.
But it is okay to bring doubt on the courts. The very thing that holds all this in the elections, you can't talk about that when you have a hearing. Right.
That's
very
sacred.
sacred. But the court, we might probably need to stack it.
And that's right.
Right.
And remember, there was never a constitutional right to an abortion. She says there's a constitutional right. Which the courts take away a constitutional right. There never was.
Where's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it's very funny that she says that, I always think when you say activist court, they actually are saying they got it wrong. They said, no, we don't understand. We ruled on this wrong. And here goes the history that we ruled wrong on this. And so we're actually making it right. And because we ruled wrong, you're going to say we're being no, we're fixing what was broken. And so when were they being activists? When they ruled wrong the first time?
Yeah.
Was that because those were all Republicans? Something was wrong there.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah, that's right.
But I think the thing that really gets me is the fact that when she talks about the 14th Amendment, that, this is a right to privacy. When we had Jeff Schaefer on, he was talking about this and blew my mind. There isn't really a constitutional right to privacy.
There is obviously no such thing in the Constitution as a right to privacy. However, the court determined that because certain elements of the Bill of Rights speak in terms of what arguably could be characterized as privacy.
No illegal search and seizures.
Exactly. Okay. No forced housing of soldiers in your home.
Right.
This kind of thing.
Okay.
It's describing the Bill of Rights almost as a moon that's giving off of light, and the shadow that runs around the exterior of the moon's light is where we're finding these rights of privacy, which included in the 1965 Griswold case a right to marital immunity against the laws against contraception.
Man, that seems like a great show.
I'd watch that show, especially if that guy's on there.
Yeah, right? Every time.
So all the justification that we have done in our land regarding
privacy,
LGBT, marriage, abortion,
contraception,
divorce,
the right
all that
to
stuff.
fruitless sex. We got to remember that.
Fruitless sex. It's all been anchored on this right to privacy that Jeff Schaefer says you can't find in the Constitution.
Right. It's which again, the particular ones, and you noted them in there, was the right to not have soldiers, forced upon
In
you
your house.
in your house, and no unlawful searches and seizures like the FBI did in Mar-a-Lago.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, that's all you've got there.
Yep.
Right. That there's nothing about the right to choose to abort your baby.
Yeah, the right to privately kill a human.
Right.
So Kamala Harris actually goes on. You mentioned Kami. I can't. That's how I say her name. Is Kami. It just comes out Kami Harris.
Yeah, right.
Kami Harris. Anyways, she actually goes on. You mentioned that she references the 14th Amendment, but listen to her talk about abortion a little more in this Meet the Press video.
Do you believe the government should put any limit on abortion?
I believe government should not be telling women what to do with their bodies.
Oh.
I believe government should not be telling women how to plan their families. I believe government should not be criminalizing healthcare providers. I believe government should not be saying no exception for rape or incest. As a prosecutor, former prosecutor who specialized in child sexual assault cases, understanding the violence that occurs against women and children, and then to further subject them to those kind of inhumane conditions.
By killing the baby.
That's what I believe.
That's what I believe.
Being pregnant is an inhumane condition.
Don't want to be pregnant.
If you're raped. If you don't want the baby. Actually, not even if you're raped. It's if you just don't want the baby at all.
I don't like the fact that everybody is having a conversation on some of the exceptions. And these aren't really valid exceptions anyway. But notice how that the majority of abortions, all abortions, have nothing to do with this topic. This is such
tiny
point something percentage of the conversation.
But the liberals know how to win arguments.
And they are taking this to make it an emotional argument so that say, well, if you do it what you're talking about, then these people, what do they do? That's not how we make law. We always are able to understand the situation. But in this particular case, we want to say, well, what about the person who's inside?
Right.
That person has rights too.
Right.
And they deny all those rights. And when you start doing that, then there's a slippery slope. You stop looking at anybody as being a human being after a while.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and remember, the Democrats are actually freeing rapists out of jails right now. Remember during COVID, Canada was releasing a rapist, a child predator, while James Coates was going into prison.
Speaking of telling women what to do with their body, I thought they wanted those women to get vaccinated or they were going to lose their jobs.
That's right.
Weren't they telling women what to do with their body then, and a whole lot of other people what to do with their body?
My family.
Yeah.
Hey, we're on a mission to make magazines great again, so subscribe to our Fight, Laugh, Feast magazine. This is a quarterly mini book-like experience, packed full of a variety of authors that includes theologically driven cultural commentary, a psalm of the quarter, recipes for feasting, laughter sprinkled throughout the glossy pages, and more. Sign your church up, sign your grumpy uncle up, and while you're at it, sign up the Pope, Elon Musk's, all three of them, and Russell, we can't spell your name more. Hey, take that, James White. Disclaimer, this magazine will guarantee various responses, and Cross Politic is not held liable for any of them. Reading the whole magazine may cause theological maturation, possibly encourage your kids to take the Lord's Supper with you, and will likely cause you to randomly chuckle, enjoy God's wondrous world. Sign up today, 4 issues for $60 per year. That's it. Go to fightlaughfeast.com right now to sign up.
Our next magazine is Post-Mill Christmas.
Post-Mill
Christmas.
Everybody's post-mill at Christmas.
That's redundant. Post-mill Christmas.
Also want to give a shout out to Christ Covenant Church, CREC, having a service at the Fredonia Grange at 3 p.m. on Sundays in Mount Vernon, Washington. Visit the website christ-cov.church for more details. You can also contact Pastor Michael, I think it's Kloss. We don't know how to spell anything on this prompter. At pastor@redeemerlinwood.com if you're interested.
So I was after watching this Meet the Press when I was on Twitter, and this Bill Clinton, old Bill Clinton video came up.
Okay.
When he was president, and he was going through and talking about it. It was really interesting. He was talking
friends
about
don't let friends watch old Bill Clinton videos.
How the government was basically doing biomedical experiments on its people, and Bill Clinton was basically acknowledging this and asking for forgiveness for it. Listen to this.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They fail both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. In one scientist injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge.
Wow.
In another, doctors exposed indigent cancer patients to excessive doses of radiation, a treatment from which it is virtually impossible that they could ever benefit. The report also demonstrates that these and other experiments were carried out on precisely those citizens who count most on the government for its help, the destitute,
minorities,
and the gravely ill. But the dispossessed were not alone. Members of the military, precisely those on whom we and our government count most, they were also test subjects. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo.
Not anymore.
In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment. And that was wrong.
You know, this feels like...
Man, I want to vote for Bill Clinton.
That's what... You know, Pastor, it's funny what I was going to say. I think Bill Clinton is the better conservative than most of the guys we have. Now, unfortunately, it seems like...
My goodness.
That's messed up. You know, as I was listening to this, I was like, this is what it's going to be like 30 years from now when they talk about COVID.
I hope it's by 30 years.
Not even, I hope it's less than that.
I hope it's less than that too, but I don't know. There's a lot that's going on in this moment.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of messed up. One of the things that's happened is that we've kind of forgotten that the culture of eugenics, he's talking about the Manhattan Project, and these are doctors from the Manhattan Project. I think the Manhattan Project was 1939 up to 1940.
And the threat of nuclear war.
Right. So they were making missiles and bombs and all kinds of military stuff, but then they were also experimenting on humans. And part of what the plutonium was doing was to try and figure out how much we could work around it and not be damaged. And so there was one guy they injected with plutonium in his calf, and they cut his calf off 2 days later.
Yeah. And the guy didn't. He didn't
know that they
participate
were.
in this. He didn't know.
Yeah. And the healthy people that they were just doing this to. And so the reason that this was brought up is because there's this new executive order that was signed by our president September 12th.
That's Monday.
That was just this past week. Danae Rancourt, who we had on the show, was one of the first few people who were talking about all death mortality rate as related to COVID, who was ahead of the curve on this. And he's in Canada watching what our executive orders are handing down. And in this executive order is basically a bioeconomy executive order that should strike fear in all of us. Pastor, you have actually the document, but there's two things I think we need to pay attention to: what they intend to do and why they're doing it, and then the database that comes from it.
Right. This section 1 says that the administration is going to coordinate a whole government approach to advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing towards innovative solutions in health, climate change, energy, food security, agriculture, supply chain resilience, and national and economic security, and give chocolate milk to everyone.
Oh, well, I
biomedical chocolate milk.
No one will die ever again. That's what it says.
It's not used by real milk. It's biomedical milk with chocolate in it.
Maybe Dave Rubin can share some of it.
Oh,
biotechnology harnesses the power of biology to create new services and products which provide opportunities to grow the United States economy and workforce, improve the quality of lives and environment. The economic activity derived from biotechnology and biomanufacturing is referred to as the bioeconomy. Now, here's the crazy stuff. Here's the part that everybody listen. This is
no one's talking about this. No one's talking about this executive order. It's crazy to me.
Do you have like freak out music? Because this is the part where we need freak out music.
No.
Okay. For biotechnology and biomanufacturing to help us achieve our societal goals.
Okay. Where are those at? I thought we had a constitution. What societal goals are they talking about?
Right. Just trust the experts.
Yeah.
The United States needs to invest in foundational scientific capabilities. We need to develop genetic engineering technologies and techniques to be able to write circuitry for cells. Did you hear that? We're gonna write
cells.
circuitry for cells and predictably program biology.
It's called the mRNA vaccine.
That's part of it. In the same way in which we write software and program computers. It's right there.
We just had
they just said it out loud.
Yeah. We just had David Yance on yesterday talking about all the military and the military they're using for this right now.
They want to write the circuitry for cells and program biology in the same way they write software and program computers. Unlock the power of biological data. This is your DNA. This is your RNA. Including through computing tools and artificial intelligence, and advance the science of scale-up production while reducing the obstacles for commercialization so that innovative technologies and products can reach markets
faster.
That last line.
Faster.
All of that whole paragraph is scary, but particularly that last line, because that removes the checks and balances, okay? Because to get to market faster, we can't have all these things in the way.
No, you want to make it hard for a small business to start up, but we want to make it faster for the market.
For eugenics.
I mean, this is like classic mad scientist talk.
So remember,
we're going to take over the world. We're going to run everything. We're going to fix everything.
Pinky in the brain.
Absolutely.
So remember when the Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson conversation happened? Yeah. I didn't see a lot of people really hit the eugenics thing. And it's because we are numb to the eugenics situation.
Yeah, we don't see it.
We don't see it. And I think a lot of people, Pastor, just heard you read that and was like, it sounds pretty cool if I could just dial up this thing and I can
fix my genes.
Fix my genes and all sorts of other stuff. And I think it's because we are in this culture and in this world where transhumanism is normal.
Yeah.
So we have apps that we can pull up for fun. I think it's a training process to get us to see, this is what it looks like if you were a woman.
This is what you would look like.
This is what would look like if you were a man.
Right.
Oh, this is what it would look like if you didn't have the eye. You wanted to be black. Oh,
I
you
like
could be
the app
black.
that
You
gets
wanted to
rid
be
of my
white.
belly. Gets rid of my belly. I appreciate
you want
that.
a big
That's
butt?
eugenics.
You can have a big butt. You want a small waist? You can have a small.
Yeah.
What kind of person do you want to make?
Right.
Because you can make that kind of person.
Mr. Potato Head.
And so right now they have us making this type of person online.
Right.
So that because we get comfortable how other people see our presentation of us and not really us. And so now it's like, what if you can have the real you, the one that you have in here?
Right.
It's not just online anymore.
Right. And that's what they're offering.
But
that's what they're offering.
I think tracing this is abortion's here, eugenics is behind abortion.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And then behind that's evolution.
Right.
Yes.
It's like our worldview is driving all the way out to now biomedical, manufacturing.
This is exactly what we talked with David Limbaugh about yesterday on the show, which is again, it's Darwinism, but it's Darwinism with a twist and it really is Darwinism and Marxism kind of married, because it has the same might makes right, survival of the fittest, and sort of this we can bring beauty and glory and strength out of chaos, but then it has this market side, and we can run it side. This kind of this arrogant hubris that says. We have evolved to the point where we can now control the evolutionary process.
Yeah.
And so it starts with abortion.
Yeah.
Which is, again, back to what Kamala Harris and the whole left is talking about when they're defending. This is them having the right to make their own life.
Yeah.
The right to make their own family and so forth. And fundamentally, the Christian response to that is you do not have that right.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
You are not God.
That's right.
You are not God. And if God has put a life inside of you, you have absolutely no right to take that life. And if you made choices that got that life there, okay, that's you need to own that.
Yeah.
And if some horrific act happened to you and a life is now in there, nevertheless, you are not sovereign. You are not God.
You still report to God.
God is over that life.
Just because something tragic happens to you doesn't mean you get to escape from this reality.
But they reported in Iceland, a few years ago that that Down syndrome's down to 0.00 whatever percent, and it's because they're all murdered.
Yeah.
In Iceland, they just kill Down syndrome babies.
Yeah.
But that's eugenics.
Right.
That's people saying, I know better than God. This person does not deserve to live. The world would be better without them. My life would be better without them.
We get to decide the kind of human beings that get to be made.
Yes.
Now, that's scary.
That's eugenics.
Yeah.
And that's what you're programming initially is they're just killing babies.
Yeah. Pastor, this is really complicated for me because I don't understand how people, especially I'm thinking about black people particularly, who are very, very proud of their blackness and proud of black culture. then find it in their heart to say, yes, we need less of that by having abortion. Right. You know, and so those two don't seem to connect in the same way. But because
there's a difference between recognizing that God is the one who made all of us and made us with all of our glorious diversity.
Right.
And receiving that gift.
Yeah.
And then saying, I love my whatever it is, my blackness, my whiteness.
Right. The virtue's in the wrong place.
And then I am the God. And now
that's insanity.
And now there's another person trying to get in on this inside my body or inside my family. Yeah. And if that gets in the way of what I was making myself to be, then I will choose to execute that.
Why doesn't something like this go through Congress? How is it that the president of the United States can pull an executive order out to pull off eugenics?
Well,
and call it bioeconomy.
Well, for the same reason they were able to shut down our economies and tell everybody to take the jab.
Yeah, they used peer pressure on that.
We were already getting that.
But this seems more than a peer pressure. This is actually opened up a whole. They're trying to use this to say this is economy booster.
Right.
And it's not going through. How are they going to get the money for this? Where is it going to come from? None of that stuff is explained in this. It's just going to happen.
Right. But everybody needs to understand abortion, transgender surgeries.
Yep.
All of this stuff is eugenics. Dave Rubin, buying eggs from catalogs, renting wombs.
That's right.
Putting breast milk in freezers.
That's right.
This is a boutique life.
Yeah.
I am sovereign. I am my own God. I make myself.
And we need to have some sort of immune system to it. And right now, I don't think we do at all.
I can choose. If I'm a man, I can be a woman. If I'm a woman, I can be a man. I can cut. I can dice and chop.
And make whatever I want to.
On the macro level, all the way down to the cellular level.
Yep.
I can make human life be whatever I want it to be.
We're in a scary place right now.
We are. Dime Payments is a Christian-owned processing payment business. Every business needs a payment process system. Go to dimepayments.com/FLF. That part tells them we sent you. And sign your business up. Working with them supports us. They won't cancel you like Stripe canceled President Trump. They won't cancel you like MailChimp canceled the Babylon Bee. Check them out. At least have a phone call. Tell them that Cross Politics sent you. Go to dimepayments.com/FLF.
Love those guys. Tell them we sent you.
Yeah.
He said that part. You just want to make sure they heard
I'm saying
that.
again.
Psalm 100 is the psalm of the day. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all you lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, not we ourselves. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures to all generations. Psalm 100 is a pretty famous psalm. It's been known as Old 100th for many generations. It was such a well-loved tune that it's been continued down to the present as our common doxology tune. And we love singing this at the Fight Laugh Feast conference.
Yes.
By the way, we have beer and psalms on the first night where we sing through a bunch of psalms and hymns together, but Aaron Snell leads singing throughout the whole conference.
Yep.
Yes.
We usually do a couple of songs before each talk, and many folks tell us that the singing is the highlight of the conference for them. And while this hurts some of our speakers' feelings a little bit, we don't really care. Many folks say they take the songs back home and begin teaching their home groups and small groups and churches. So sign up for the Fight Laugh Feast conference and come sing psalms with us like this one. And don't forget that we just opened a special Saturday-only registration for $99.
Yes.
So if you just couldn't figure out how to swing the whole conference, maybe this is for you. $99 gets you all of Saturday, 3 talks and a live show and our family-style Sabbath dinner. So go check it out.
And stand-up comedian, right? Stand-up comedian.
That's right.
Yeah, John Brannian and crew.
The main thing I want to point out about Psalm 100 today is the center of the psalm. This is a psalm of praise and a call to worship God. But the center of the psalm is verse 3. Know ye that the Lord is God. It is he who hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. He is God. He made us. We did not make ourselves. What a psalm for our day.
Man.
And
for this show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Seriously. But maybe that's something you've been tempted to think, is not really necessary to say. Like, yeah, of course God made us. But look around you. We live in a culture of desperate, anxious, despairing people that are frantically trying to make themselves.
Yeah.
And it really goes both ways. We have people who really don't know God, and therefore the only alternative is to try to make yourself. If God didn't make you, who will? Who will look out for you? You have to make yourself. The flip side is there are piles and piles of professing Christians who say that the Lord is God, And they too have been sucked into the desperate anxiety, and they're rushing around trying to make themselves as well. Christians are the problem just as much as the pagans. Some people are trying to make themselves through physical fitness and diet fads, through sex and beauty and fashion. Now people are trying to make themselves through sexual identity, through sexual orientation, through eugenics, through trans surgeries and chemicals. But all of this is slavery, and really it's utterly impossible.
Yeah.
You can't be God. And don't forget this. And when you try to be God, you suck at being God.
Yeah.
Right? All you do is destroy people. All you do is harm people. All you do is maim people. You pump them full of plutonium and their leg gets chopped off 2 days. And then 30 years later, the president's apologizing. It's such good news to hear the message of Psalm 100. The Lord is God. You are not God. The Lord is God. We did not make ourselves. He made us. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Of course, this reminds us of Jesus, the good shepherd, who gave his life for his sheep, so that he might not lose a single one. Jesus made us, and by his blood, he has remade us. And he has given his life for us. And like a good shepherd, he feeds his sheep. In the Old Testament, kings were often called shepherds. And in this way, Jesus is also faithful king. We live in a land full of worthless rulers, worthless kings who feed on their people, who experiment on their people, rather than feeding their people, rather than giving their people life. All of this, the fact that Jesus is a good king who has given his life for his people, should make us want to worship him, to make a joyful noise, to sing out loud, because he is good, and his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures to all generations. Cheers to the king!
Cheers to the king!
Cheers to the king, man.
And this is a comfort, whether you're experiencing like a blessed season by God or a trial or going through trials.
Yeah.
God made you.
Yeah. He made us for this.
And he made us for this moment.
He made us for this moment.
Whether it's for blessing or for challenges.
Right. And when it's challenges, you know it's the Lord is good.
That's right.
That's right. He is the good shepherd.
Yep.
And he leads you where you need to go.
And that's why you can count it all joy.
Right.
I got some questions for Backstage.
I
want to talk about why beer and Psalms.
All right.
At the conference. Why beer? Why Psalm? And the importance of music. Okay. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic. I just want everybody to know Backstage that you skipped a clip and you got out of the order of the actual recording of the show.
No,
that's
not how.
Was that intentional?
I had it mapped out differently than you. I was like, Knox skipped a clip,
Hold
right,
on.
Haley?
Haley,
right, Haley? Was that Knox skipped a clip or
who skipped
gay?
the clip? It's okay. It's okay. You're not gonna get fired. Who skipped the clip? Who was it?
The way Knox is going. Okay, all right.
What was the one?
It was we were supposed to play the clip we were supposed to play because we were trying to let everybody know we forgot what eugenics was.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Since ancient Greece, there have been efforts to control human populations via reproduction, retaining some traits and removing others.
Oh.
But in the 19th century, the discovery of evolution and genetics inspired a new scientific movement dedicated to this endeavor. In 1883, British scientist Sir Francis Galton named this idea eugenics, drawing from the Greek word for to be well born. This wave of modern eugenicists included prominent scientists and progressive reformers who believed they could improve society by ensuring that only desirable traits were passed down. However, their definition of what traits were and were not desirable was largely determined by the prejudices of their era.
Right.
Entire categories of people were considered unfit for reproduction, including immigrants, people of color, and people with disabilities. Meanwhile, their ideal genetic standard reflected the movement's members, white Europeans of Nordic or Anglo-Saxon descent. As the influence of eugenics spread in the early 20th century, many countries restricted immigration and outlawed interracial unions. These measures to improve so-called racial hygiene were taken to their horrific conclusion in Nazi Germany. The Nazi eugenics campaign systematically killed millions of Jews, as well as individuals from other groups, including Roma, gay men, and people with disabilities. Outside their extreme brutality, however, Nazi eugenic policies reflected similar standards across the globe. Throughout the mid-20th century, many countries enacted eugenics policies, and governments in Sweden, Canada, and Japan forcibly sterilized thousands of individuals. Sterilization was exceptionally common in the U.S. From 1907 to 1979, U.S. policies enforced the sterilization of over 60,000 people, with 32 states passing laws that mandated sterilization for men and women deemed mentally defective. This label was typically applied based on superficial mental health diagnoses and the results of IQ tests, which were linguistically and culturally biased against most immigrant populations. These racist standards were particularly problematic in California. From 1920 to 1945, Latina women were 59% more likely to be sterilized than other women, and the rate of sterilizations in California was incredibly high.
Wow.
This single state performed over 1/3 of the country's sterilization operations.
That's what you missed.
Wow. I actually forgot about that video. But
I know.
there's the commie order that.
Did you notice one thing that they said though when they talked about how the outworking of eugenics mainly took its place inside of Germany, right? And Germany, they had the Jews, they had of course blacks, and they had the homosexuals. When you look at the current social justice movement and disabilities, thank you. When you look at the current social justice movement, what is it made up of? Majority black folks, homosexuals,
and
people with
Latinos.
disabilities, right? That's all. Why aren't they the loudest group pushing against something like this coming from the White House, pushing against this type of attitude in the culture?
And all that stuff.
All of it.
Because it's not about justice.
They are.
It's about revenge.
One of the things that
they all have the same worldview. They have the same worldview as Nazi Germany. They have that evolutionary.
They become
mindset.
like their abusers.
That's exactly where I was about to go, Pastor. The sin is wrapped. The punishment is wrapped up in the sin itself. They can't see that they will ultimately end up exterminating themselves.
They become like their abusers.
So their false gods that they're worshiping will kill them.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Their false gods will kill them. And man, if there's ever a time for us to say, "Oh, y'all, please don't go down this way. Please don't go down. Don't do this. It's already bad that you're in this state, but this next stage, the next stage, is going to slaughter you in a way that you think you're trying. It's not us. We're not your enemy." Mm-hmm. You're your worst enemy in this process and this time. Right. And it's just amazing that anyway. So I just wanted to let you know you missed that point. And
no.
I thought it was still good that we should
It's cool. You called me out in the club portal.
Yeah,
cool.
Okay, I didn't wait. And the time I looked at the clock.
Guys, I just don't understand why you just like not getting along very well anymore. I remember the good old days when we used to get along really well, and now we don't get along.
We don't get along
very well.
Well, you know why? Because we don't sing enough psalms. So,
nice turn.
Some of the people who are good friends of mine, I'm gonna say good Baptist friends of mine who are solid believing Christians. They're not necessarily reformed, but they look at what we're doing with the beer and Psalms. They kind of have a problem with the beer. They love the Psalms because it's all Bible, but man, why the beer? You know?
Yeah.
And your answer to that would be?
Beer is dangerous. And
we know.
And so are Psalms. And the fact that you're not more worried about singing the Psalms tells me you don't know your Bible.
I'm gonna tell you who was worried about us singing some Psalms. Our local government. Yeah. They was more worried about the Psalms. Yeah. You know,
right? The Psalms. I mean, it's like, wouldn't it be great if God gave us a book of songs that He said these are potent for worship? I mean, wouldn't that be great?
Be really good. Yeah, I wish we had one of those.
And He did. Gave us 150 songs and said, "Here, you want to know what I love to hear?" Yeah. And if you read, if you start singing the Psalms, you start praying the Psalms. I mean, if you're not used to singing them, and you just, all right, well, I just want to learn. Like, start praying them. Like, just work through it. It's one of the things that the church has done from jump. I mean, they did this back in the Old Testament. They just had systems of working through the Psalms regularly. In the Middle Ages, the monks would pray the Psalms every week, all 150 Psalms.
Wow.
Every week.
Wow. 150 Psalms every week.
Every week.
Yep. And they made good beer.
And they made good beer. That's not an accident. But the song, like, you start praying and singing the Psalms, and you will find yourself praying and singing things you never sung or prayed before. Mm-hmm. The Psalms have enemies. The psalmist has enemies. And he's asking God to destroy them. He's asking God to defend him. He's asking God to protect him. He's asking God, where are you? I'm getting chased by these enemies. The church is not used to fighting. And no wonder. We've been singing, Jesus, I love you. I just want to love you. I just love you. I just love you. Repeat.
Yep.
And it's like Jesus is my boyfriend songs is not setting anybody up to fight.
Yeah.
And then when somebody walks into the room and says, hey, let's take those, let's go, let's take them. And they're like, whoa, dude, like, relax.
Just love.
Love, man. They're not even used to it. But just start with the Psalms. The Psalms are like steak and potatoes for Christians. They're like they're spiritual workout food. But then it's not just fighting. I mean, there's enemies, there's fighting. There's also you're talking about, going through hard times.
Grief.
Grief. I mean, the Psalms put words to your grief that, modern praise songs is no good.
Yeah, right.
And people kind of know this. I mean,
yeah, they do.
You go to a wedding or a funeral and people want a Psalm read.
Yeah.
They want, even if they only know 3, like, I want Psalm 23 read.
Yeah.
The Lord is my shepherd.
It's funny about that. We were talking about 9/11 earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they were singing, some beautiful songs from that.
Nobody wants Hillsong. When it comes,
if you do, you need to smack yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with you people, right? When it comes to 9/11, when it comes to you lose a child,
right?
It comes, your spouse has cancer, some difficulty. I mean, the Psalms are real.
Yeah,
the Psalms are raw.
Yep.
Yeah,
and like David went through it. And the other authors of the Psalms, they went through it. God, and back to what is God doing with David? I mean, taking him through all these hard things so he could write these songs and prayers
for us,
for the church.
I would say one of the things that God is doing when you sing the Psalms and when you learn to sing the Psalms is He's shaping you.
That's right.
He's taking all this trials, all this raw realness in the text, and it's actually shaping you and how you think. I mean, I remember before I came to Moscow how I thought about God, how I thought about the world, how I thought about, and then I remember singing Psalms over 20 years now,
right?
And I think very differently. I think I'm more prepared for trials. I'm more prepared for the hard times. I'm more prepared for the battles that God has before us in these next 20 years that are ahead of us. So God, He shapes you in the Psalms. He shapes you in the singing of these Psalms. And so, as opposed to you being shaped by Hillsong, as opposed to you being shaped by, the 3-chord worship music out there, and it does. Look at our world. Look at our culture. Look at our church. They've been shaped by CCM worship music for 40 years now, and it's not looking good.
There's something else to this too. I remember being here for 3 years, going back to a church that I was at, and I remember I wasn't really enjoying the Psalms. It wasn't my type of music. It wasn't the music that it's in my soul. I just don't sing it naturally. And I remember going to this church, so happy to go back to a worship service where I knew the songs and I could almost close my eyes and act like I wanted. It was a reform place. Act like I wanted to lift my hands.
Yeah. And
I remember getting ready for that moment, like I'm about to have a really good meal, and I got there and I was like, oh, this is soft. This is soft. And I remember
because you've been shaped.
I didn't even know how much it was shaping me.
You're getting shaped.
I didn't know that even though it was kind of in this classical form and it had a masculine feel to it, and the other music, even though it was even good music that had good tones, musical notes to it, the design of it was built around a soft culture. And I didn't know how soft I was. And I'm not even enjoying the flavor of what I'm getting. And God is crafting me, and I get there and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I wanted to leave. And then I heard a good sermon, and the sermon was nothing like what the singing was.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, how is this high up here?
Right.
And then down here, it's trying, but it's nowhere close. It was just kitty wampus. And I remember hungry. I came back and I was like, I have to figure out, even against my own taste and sensibilities, how to have Psalms inside of me so that they come out at moment, just instantly, just like another lyric to a song would come out. Because we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow on the show. I think we're coming to a time right now, particularly watching what's happening with our economy and other things that are about to take place in America. I think we are in a very interesting place, and you better know you some Jesus. Because if you haven't been leaning on him and trusting him, you're going to either fall or you're going to stand. That's the only two options we're about to be in front of. And if you don't know you some Psalms and these troubled times that are coming, you are not going to be held together. Right. You're going to have something. You cannot lean on a Tupac song or a Beyonce's track to get you through the day. It's
Only
not
God
going to
can
work.
judge me now.
You know, it's not. Yeah, that's not gonna. It's not gonna cut it. Right. For what we're about to face, you better have something that stirs your soul to worship God past those troubles and trials.
Back to your original question, Knox, I would say too, I said, beer and wine is dangerous, but they're also gifts of God. And that's one of the things that, we're committed to recovering and receiving the gifts of God. In Psalm 104, for example, it says, he causes the grass to grow for the cattle, the herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengthens man's heart.
Oh, man. That just hit me differently.
God says that he gave wine to make the heart of man glad. And I think we can slide right in there beer as well. Yeah. It's a similar kind of gift. And the Bible is absolutely clear. All drunkenness is out.
Yeah. That's right.
No drunkenness at all. Yeah. The Lord says that drunken, do not be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit. But the gift of wine, the gift of beer is to make our hearts glad. That's Psalm 104. And so there's this good gift that gives you joy, and you have to be thoughtful. It's also dangerous. And I think that's a metaphor for, I think, basically what you're talking about. If we're going into hard times, we're going to war. Yeah. Then we need war songs. Yeah. And war songs are realistic about the enemies we face, the challenges we face, the pains that we face, the difficulties and hardships we face. And at the same time, all those psalms, almost all of them, have that turn. Yep. Yep. There's only one of them that doesn't, which is encouraging for every once in a while when you just don't pull out of it that night, and the next morning you got to wake up the next morning and be like, so it's going to be okay. Yeah. But 149 of them pull out, and it's hard. God, where are you? I'm crying out to you. Yeah. My enemies are chasing me. Why are you not listening to me? It's going bad. It's going terrible. They're mocking me. They're saying, where is your God? Yeah. And then there's a turn, and it's usually something like, the Lord heard my prayers, and he answered me out of his temple. The Lord heard my prayers, and I will praise him. God is my strength. He is my song. He is my salvation. It's that turn, though. It's that joy in the midst of the hardship. Yeah, that we want to go for. I mean, that's why we call it fight, laugh, feast. Yeah, we know that we've got fighting to do. We want to fight like Christians. We want to fight like believers with joy in our hearts, and gladness with laughter and feasting. That's why we do beer and songs.
So war food and war drink.
Yes, war food, war drink, war songs, all together, because that's what we want. And it's the kind of thing that strengthens your heart, like it says, bread that strengthens a man's heart, wine that makes the heart of man glad. We want that kind of strength in our souls, in our bodies and our souls, as we face the challenges that God has for us.
That's good stuff.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like cross-politics or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.
Meet Big Ed. He has a tax-funded taste for children. Big Ed knows that the best grooming starts early. He has a plan for your preschoolers, a plan to gender confuse your grade schoolers. But if you think his grooming stops there, you have not been paying attention. Big Ed wants to liberate your daughters from old-fashioned ideas like, well, you already know. Big Ed has dorm rooms ready for you in prison buildings of learning, and professors standing by dedicated to grooming young adults in doubt and unbelief. After all, he is the gatekeeper of this brave new world. And if you want a job, you'll need to pay him with years of your life for a permission slip. Yeah, whatever. You think David paid Goliath for a certificate in giant management before those two squared off? Did Luther major in theses? Was George Washington summa cum laude in empire repellents, while Jefferson focused on ag with a minor in declarations? When the world needs saving, meaningful vocations abound for those who are truly prepared. And the truth is, despite Marxist advances, this is still America, and Big Ed is still a voluntary opt-in. So don't. Not at any level. Not preschool, not middle school, not college. It isn't complicated. When Big Ed offers you free candy, stay away. You'll thank us later. We know it's crazy, but run with us here. Men and women were created in the image of God. You don't need a government certificate of faux learning for personal validation or permission to work. You were born with divine permission to pursue knowledge and understanding, truth, goodness, and beauty. And at New St. Andrews College, we are committed to helping students do just that to their fullest potential. In an age dominated by chaos, when learning is on a choke leash controlled by Big Ed and his many strange friends, ours is an education for outlaws, an education for men and women committed to building a beautiful and free society in the ruins of the Western world. When thinking is outlawed, only outlaws will think. Yes, Big Ed hates what we do, but his hatred brings us joy. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for outlaws. Mind, body, and soul.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.